Hello and welcome to another mod installation video, or another game installation video even. Hopefully this time I'll remember to turn on my microphone so I don't have to redo the recording. But this time I thought I'd look at Lost Alpha that's just been released. The other day 1.4 was released, which many people found they couldn't run due to a couple of files being absent from the developer's release, as far as I'm aware. So I thought I'd wait until it was patched, and in the last day or so 1.4002 has been released. So what I thought I'd do is do a real-time installation, and then we can load up the game, check out performance, and go from there. So let's do the installation first. Okay, so I think one of the things I should mention, I have noticed on ModDB one or two people saying that they still couldn't get the game running with 1.4002, but I think what they may have done, although I can't be sure of course, but what they might have done is misread it slightly. You still need parts 1.3, part 1 through to 4, but the outdated patch 1.3003 you don't need, because that's contained in, for example, this patch here. But I'll show you how to do it. So what I've got here is 1.3 part 1 through to part 4, and the 1.4002 big patch, which contains 1.3's patch, so that's 1.3003, and then 1.4, 1.4001, and then 1.4002. Bit of a mouthful. So first of all we need to extract part 1, which will also take care of parts 2, 3 and 4. Whoops. Extract, and then I'm going to extract it to desktop as per usual. And this will take a little bit of time due to the size of the file, so I'll be back in a moment. Right, so you should have a folder or a file on your system, desktop or wherever you've placed it, looking like this. S.T.A.L.K.E.R Lost Alpha, version 1.3 setup. So just double click on that, and then up should come a window like this, and we want to hit the setup.exe. Right, so it's just a case of running through the setup wizard. So click next, and I'm going to let mine install to the default location, which is already mapped out for me. So next, install, and this is where once it's the progress bar is full up, it can take quite a few minutes before it's really fully finished. So be prepared to wait 5 or 10 minutes before it continues further on. So I'll pop back once this is finished doing what it has to do. Okay, so once that's done, you'll be presented with this window here, this Microsoft Visual Redistributable x86 window. So you want to click Repair, and at the end of it it'll ask you if you want to restart your computer before you can use the software. What I've been doing is just clicking Close and then letting it carry on with the installation. So the next thing that comes up is the DirectX June 2010 SDK, and you have to accept that, or at least as far as I'm aware you have to. And I'm just going to, for the installation here, I'm just going to click on Browse and just go with the first location, which is there, temp, and that'll do for me. Click OK. I've done this already, so I'm just going to click Yes to all to overwrite it, but otherwise you'd just click Yes, and away it goes. And then the next window you get that comes up is OpenAL, which I believe is audio related. I think it's to do with the .dll files installation. So again, just click OK here. Installation complete. Click OK, and then finally you should have one more hoop to jump through, which is Xvid codec, and again just choose your language. Mine's English, of course. OK, and then click Next. Accept the agreement, click Next, and this will install this. I think it's to do with the operation and running of the cutscenes in the game. This will install that to your Lost Alpha address. Just click next. Do I want to automatically check for updates? Yeah, okay, why not? Click next. I don't tend to check these boxes here. I haven't had any negative or untoward side effects of not doing that. Click next, and then one more time again. Right at the end it'll just offer to let you read the readme file. I don't want to bother with that right now, so I'm just going to click finish. And this is where at the very end it asks you again, you need to restart your computer, and now's the right time to do it, I would say. So I'm just going to pause the recording, restart the computer, and then we can launch the game and show you what it should look like at this stage with the version of 1.3.000. Alright, so this is what you should be seeing. In the bottom left it will say Lost Alpha version 1.3.000. So now what I'm going to do is head back to Windows and then apply the latest update, and then we can get into the game for proper. Right, so in my case it's going to be the big patch, which contains patch 1.3.003 and then all the 1.4s. So as before, just double click on it, and then I'm going to extract to my desktop. And it doesn't take too long, but I'll just cut back when it's finished. Okay, so you should have 4 sort of ingredients, if you like. You should have the main sort of exe, and then you've got a readme, and then 2 game data files or bin files. So just double click on the exe and go yes. And once again we're installing this to the same location that we did with 1.3. So basically what we're going to do is be merging it. And the answer to that is yes, I would like to install it to that folder. Once again, it'll take a little bit of time, so I'll come back when it's finished. Alright, so that's now completed the installation of Lost Alpha Developers Cut. So click finish to exit the setup. And that, I believe, will be the icon that we click on, double click on, or the shortcut. So what I'm going to do is just pause the recording, check that it's actually loads up okay, and then I'll pop back and we'll take it from there. Right, so here we are. It should say in the bottom left hand corner, just turn the sound down once again, say about there, just for this video. Right, so in the bottom it should say Lost Alpha version 1.4.002 Developers Cut. So, I've played very, very little of this this new release, only like 5 minutes, that's all. So what I've done with the settings is as follows. What I tend to do is usually whack everything up to the maximum and then work my way down, rather than try for something sort of in the middle and be able to run it really easily. So the settings that I used earlier were as follows. I don't know about keeping textures in RAM, whether that's preferable or not, I don't actually know, but this is what I've used. Could have sworn I chose DX11. Full dynamic lighting, which I've got to restart to employ, maximum and my resolution, and then I went to advanced, vision distance I went to the maximum, as is objects detail. Now the grass density, in fact I had everything up to the hilt pretty much. I think what I'll do is I'll just arrange it like that, then I can talk about the things that I changed, because I had to change a few of them, because the performance was, let's just say I saw lows of 2 frames a second and highs of about 7 frames a second. I kid you not. So let's just check that everything is on. I think I had, yes, I had that on, not 60 Hertz, that was on high. Ambient occlusion, I'm using an NVIDIA card which I think is HBAO. I forget that quite often. I think that's the right one to choose, but I stand corrected if I'm wrong there. I think AMD is HDAO, but whether SSAO is better than either, I'm honestly not aware which ones to go for there. I'm going to check out the depth of field in this before making a decision to uncheck these. Depth of field is very much game dependent, I find. Sometimes I quite like it, sometimes I think it's bleeding awful. But I think that's about what I had on earlier, I think. But the settings that I had that really did cause me a problem was grass density. So I dropped it down actually to the lowest, because although there is a lot less grass, there's still some around in the game world. It's not completely devoid of vegetation. I was able to leave the grass shadow on, which is nice, because I do like that feature. That does look quite nice. All of these were okay to leave up to the maximum. We've got sun flares, that was fine. Shadow map size, I left that on at maximum. I don't use motion blur. Yeah, I think this is pretty much how I had it running very nicely. When I restart the computer, the SSAO will be on Ultra, but I think it's pretty much going to look the same as what you see there. Right, so I'll just pop back and restart the game, and then we can take a look at the actual in-game footage. Okay, so I'm back again. In the options I didn't mention, with regard to the game settings, I see there you've got a choice of crosshair types as well, which I haven't experimented with yet at all. They've got a show clock, show interface, PC identification, intro, prefetch objects. I think you turn that off if you're having problems with load times, I think, or possibly stuttering or stuttering, though I can't swear to that. But I've had no problems, so I've left that as it is. What do we got here? The interface type, new style with transparency. To be honest, I can't remember what I had last time. I'll just leave it at that for now. I'll try master. If it's too difficult, I can always turn it down. The camera field of view and the HUD field of view, I haven't tried altering that. It would be nice if there was like a figure along the side of the bars to represent what the actual, because that doesn't really say a lot. What does that actually mean? But when I did briefly load up the game, and it, my hands didn't look massive on the screen, so I'm assuming that the field of view was probably around about 80 or something. But I'll take a look once we get into it, and I can always adjust it if I need to. So I'll just sort my controls out, and once I've done that, then we can start the game.
Through the bleak darkness of a storm, lightning bolts occasionally show the way. If the storm are the reaper's rose, the lightnings are his sky. A driverless truck races down a road it had taken many times before, bringing back dead bodies of stalkers, for whom the zone has lost its patience. The sudden flash of light hits the truck. The journey of the dead will end here. A running man approaches the wreckage. He knows about these death trucks. Slows down and eventually stands there for a moment. He'd never gotten completely used to seeing death, no matter how many times he had seen it before. He checks the bodies. First one, then a second, then a third. Then suddenly one of the bodies stirs, emitting a groan. opening its eyes to reveal a blank and empty gaze, clearly refusing to leave where the majority already went.
This one seems to be alive. What a lucky guy. At least death would have saved you from the dreams. Let's go and see what value Toll would on your head.
The stranger picks up the body, throws him across his shoulder, and takes him to the local dealer.
Right, so this looks familiar from last time. And when I originally tried it out earlier on off camera and I had the grass density turned right up, at first I thought, you know, it wasn't too bad. I was seeing frames in the 40s. But I may have to tweak a few things here because it does feel a little bit slow. And earlier on, as I say, I was walking around, and when you turned, sometimes it just took quite a while for things to catch up. And even indoors, I was seeing frames as low as I don't know, about 10. So I think it probably was the grass density and one or two other things, but I can't quite remember exactly what those were. But I guess we'll find out in a moment. So I'm not going to spend time looking around, searching for things. You know, I don't want to spoil it for anyone that wants to play. But I am just going to speak to Sidorovich and then get outside, look at performance, bit of settings tweaking if need be, maybe a bit of roaming around, but nothing too extensive, and then call it a day.
My head is still spinning. Where am I? Who are you?
You are in my bunker. I am Sidrovich, the local trader. 3 days ago, a death truck was hit by lightning and we found you at the wreckage. Everyone was dead except you, so we brought you here.
I don't remember anything. What is this death truck thing? How was I the only survivor?
Whoa, slow down, man. First, I helped you stay alive. Now it's time for business. I have a couple of missions for you. When you are done, we will call it quits. It will also be a good test to see how much you remember after your amnesia. I will ask around about S.T.A.L.K.E.R. It's your business what you want with him. If you want to kill him, I guess you have your reasons.
Right, so you kind of have to accept the mission. And for this video, I'm just going to skip the usual intro dialogue. And so the first thing I've got to do is go and collect my equipment. Something I should have checked actually is if you can turn the radio off, which I don't know if you can. Not at the moment anyway. I tend to find the radio tracks on most of the mods of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. after a while they can come a bit irritating. Right, so let's take all of our gear and return to Sid.
What have you got in there?
Right, so the first thing he's asking us to do by the looks of it is to collect where is it? Is it an artifact? That's what my memory tells me. Oh yes, find the artifact, that's it. So let's go outside and see what the performance is like. Proverb, that's quite a nice name for a stalker. Oh, that's the guy that we see normally in the retail release of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. in the cutscene when he goes to collect you, whereas this time it was a sort of cartoon animation. But that's the guy that normally takes you to Sid. Right, so this is lower performance than I was getting earlier, but it's still better than it was to begin with. I've left the grass shadow on because I like that, and I've drastically reduced the grass density because that was that's a real killer. That is. I mean, I was seeing FPS as low as 2. I mean, that's just a slideshow, right? So that's unplayable. But I'll just try and tweak something in the options, see if I can improve it further. I'm not really too sure what HDR coefficient means. I'd imagine it's to do with the lighting, of course, but the coefficient bit is complete mystery to me. I don't know why I've got motion blur on, I can't stand that, so let's turn that off. I mean, it feels very smooth, even though I'm only seeing about 30 frames a second. I suppose the recording overhead doesn't help, but earlier on I must have had something else turned off, but I was getting like 60, 70, 80 frames a second. And OBS doesn't impact the FPS that much, normally anyway. Not sure what it could be. It might be grass distance, perhaps. Well, I'll leave it as it is for now because it does feel very smooth, I think, so I'm happy with the way it looks. The sky still reminds me of the original release. It's very washed out and very bright looking, but I suppose if it's cloudy then it could look like that. But I remember that being one of the issues people had, was that it just looks so white all the time. That's the thing. It's okay if it's washed out for a while. But when it's permanently white, it looks a bit unrealistic. I tried turning off depth of field, which actually at first glance looked quite nice in this game, but that hasn't improved the frame rate at all. I suspect what I'd have to do is to exit the game and then restart, because that's what I had to do earlier when I was altering the grass density. At the time I had it on full whack and the grass was really tall, really high, and it was just everywhere. And despite turning it down to the minimum, it wasn't until I restarted the game that I saw a really nice boost in FPS. Okay, so I tried to adjust the anti-aliasing in the game, and unfortunately it crashed. So I've started noticing that, I think actually I remember seeing it in the ModDB forums. Thank you. That people's key bindings are sort of resetting themselves. So I've just noticed that myself. I loaded up the game and restarted, and the key bindings I had been reset. I've dropped the anti-aliasing down to ×2, but I'm still not quite sure what's causing it to be so low, because as I say earlier on, before I was recording, I was easily getting 60, sometimes 70 or 80. And I've also noticed that the SSAO seems to reset itself from ultra to high. I don't know whether or not it requires a stupid amount of video RAM. I'm using a 980 Ti, which has 6 GB of video memory. I don't know about this setting here in the options, which is to do with the RAM. Keep textures in RAM. I'm not sure whether that's... I'm assuming that's for those people with graphics cards that have very low memory. I don't know though. But that's currently what I'm using. Options wise, it's pretty much all high up. Don't think I changed any of those apart from the grass density. Could try turning. Have I tried turning the MSAA off? Turn that off. Try that as well. And you see it's gone back to high again from Ultra, the S.A.L.K.E.R. So maybe it's a memory thing. Maybe you need more system RAM. I don't know. I'm running 8 GB, which I thought would have been plenty. Let's try returning to the game. See if it improves things. I don't think it will though. Yeah, I think probably a game restart's required. I'll just... Slightly higher than it was. I'm seeing it in the sort of mid to upper 30s, but it's not until you look at the sky that you get, a very high frame rate, but you can't play the whole game walking around looking at the sky, especially when it's white all the time. So I think what I'll do is I'll just restart the game again and see if those changes has made enough of a difference. Before I do that, I just thought I'd press the key to bring up the bolt. And as you can see, that looks to be a fairly narrow field of view, so I'm assuming that's probably something like, I don't know, 60, maybe 65. I don't know if it's quite as bad as Call of Pripyat's 55, but I'm just going to try adjusting that now. So I'm assuming that means change the HUD field of view. Now which way? I'm assuming probably this way. So if I try going, say that, just try that for now. Yeah, that's more like it. So that's probably about 80 or 83. Yeah, that's kind of a field of view that I like, somewhere in the 80s. It's a little bit blurry, a little bit sort of dizzy when you turn. I have got motion blur turned off, I'm sure I have. Yep, I've got motion blur turned off. I'll leave the SSAO as it is. It obviously doesn't like being turned up to the full whack. It might require me to change a different type, but I shouldn't think it makes much difference in terms of visual quality. I should think they all look much the same, really. Right, so let's... oh, actually, I'll just try once more. Camera field of view. I know even less about this, so if I put it up to there, we should see a definite change. I take it that means the field of view for the actual game world. Oh yeah, that's clearly too much. That makes it look like if you were playing another game and it's just a number that you chose, that's probably about 115 or 120 or something. Let's change that back. Still too much, but it's getting there. Yeah, that seems about right to me. So I'll stick for that for this video, and probably when I eventually start playing it for real as well. And I'll just exit the game and then restart once more, final time, and see if it improves the frame rate, because although it feels smooth, which is thank God for that, but it running around at 35, 28, 30, 31, it's not much fun. Okay, back in a mo.
Be extremely careful near anomalies. As soon as you hear the detector beeping, grab the bolts and toss them in front of you. Now go get me that artifact.
That's very much Sidorovich. That's what he's like. Okay, so I found what I think is a thorn. I'm going to whiz that back to Sivadorovich. No, 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 no. That's what you get for rushing. That's what happens when you rush. It's very lucky to get away with that. Let's take a bandage. I get so turned around in this little village. It's quite different to the ones that you're used to. The one that you're used to seeing in, what can I say, the more traditional, widely used Stalker build.
Stalker.
Right, so I've got you the artifact, which was a thorn. And what else? One of your contacts is in danger. Need to help him get the flash drive. Right.
Good hunting, Stalker.
Doesn't sound quite the same as. Excuse me. It doesn't sound quite the same as the Sidorovich in the retail release. I think this time this is where the chap that rescued you asks you to help him as well. So I think it involves, yes, clearing out some mutants. So let's go and help him do that. Let's put the ammunition on my belt, which I forgot to do when I was when I recorded earlier. Just make a quick save. Can hear the thunder. That sounds really good, actually. I like that. Yeah, as I was saying, I think the the original actor for Sidorovich, it's not the same as the one used here. I think I prefer the original, but both are pretty good, though.
Мужик, давай, если разговаривать, то по-свойски.
Alright, I
Без
have to
оружия.
put away my gun, I suppose, before I can speak to you. It would be nice if you, when you walked up to someone, if it would lower automatically like it does in some other games. Right, so there's another mutant cleaning out to be done, I think. That does sound really quite realistic. Although, as is customary in Stalker, when you get the lightning and the thunder, it tends to make the frame rate spike. I guess that's a limitation of the engine. I wondered where he went for a sec. I was hoping he wasn't lying on the ground injured, because we're going to be in a lot of problems if he was. Did he throw a grenade or did someone else throw one? Not too sure there.
Поговорим. Только сперва пушку
Got to
спрячь.
lower the weapon once again. Okay, so we've sorted those guys out. Right, so he's given me an X-ray PDA skills module. I can't recall what those do exactly. Right, so I think I need to go and find that contact of Sidorovich's, which that guy reckons is probably dead by now, so... And I expect he's right. And there he is. I think that's him. Yeah. Well, I can see the wet effects on the ground and on the army vehicle, but I disabled 10.1, didn't I? Not DX10. That's why I can see it. I wondered why it was still in operation when I thought I disabled it, but evidently not.
Brought any goodies?
Right, so the contact was dead, but I found his flash drive. And there's another job for us in the factory in the hills, which is kind of like the abandoned car park. Is that the right word? Car park? I forget what it's exactly called, but you know, the main first sort of mission that you do in Stalker. So we're going to go and do that, and then I'll probably call it a day.
Good hunting, Stalker. about it, man. Next time it could be you in its place. Don't forget to use the bolts to locate anomalies, alrighty? Talk to you.
That's rather apt, don't you think? It very nearly was me earlier on. Right, so I need some help with dealing with the bandits at the factory.
Guys, I'm sending someone your way, so wait. You may attack if necessary. Over.
All right, Wolf, send him in. As long as he stays out of the way. Out.
I love that reverberation effect. I wonder if the OpenAL download was to do with that. I expect it was. Right, so how many bandits are in the camp? 5 or 6. Right, so round up your men. Let's go. Now, when I did this last time, I didn't die. I managed to survive, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off again. Not that it matters, really. But it was quite a long, drawn-out affair, as you would expect when you've only got sort of a rough, thick jacket and a fairly not a great pistol. Let's put it that way.
We were starting to think you fell in an anomaly, doggy. I am relieved yet disappointed.
I'd never give you that kind of pleasure. Anyways, you've got the package?
Yes, right here. It makes my blood turn cold, so keep it in its container. You take it to the client as we agreed, and our contact will give you your pay once it all checks out. Any questions?
No. Knowing the client, I'll make this short. He's impatient as a raging pit bull.
Oh, I wonder what he'd say if he heard that coming out of your mouth.
Spare me the details. See you around.
What the hell?
Right, so they're onto us. Do you ever find that in games where you think you can hear something going on like near you, and then you realise it's your own footsteps? That guy at the top there doesn't seem to be flinching even though I'm shooting. Oh, he's woken up a bit now. I think I will turn off this depth of field actually. I guess it was inevitable in the end that I would do that. But for a time I was enjoying it, but no, it's not really. Environmental depth of field. Depth of field. I think I'll just turn off both for this recording. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I've taken down one there. That's one of our guys.
Выручайте! Кто-нибудь!
For a second I thought that guy was one of ours, but thankfully he's not. Oh my goodness me. Thank God you missed. I was always running a risk doing that, actually. Right, I've got one. I don't know where he went to. I've got one magazine left. So I think I can hear him. Just can't quite see him. That's definitely a bandit. Right, take the first aid kit, get up and help. Oh, we've got two of our guys there. Probably safest in here with these guys. Right, let's just try and sort some ammunition out. Only got 7 rounds in the, is it the MP5? But it'll do. Actually, this has gone a lot smoother than last time. Oh, look at those decals. I don't know whether that's to do with whether they're already there or not, but that's... Oh yeah. Got the feeling that we have killed the bandits, I think. Oh, that's the one rookie we did lose, was this guy here. Right, so I've got to go and find... Was it a flash drive on someone? I guess he's upstairs somewhere. Ah, yes, I remember. Right, so that's the... I think it's a Night Star, isn't it? Night Star that I've collected, so I've got to take that to Wolf, and that's when I'm going to call it a day. I won't spend much time looting around here. It's pretty pointless now that the main mission's done. And it gives you something to do, you know, when you get here you can scout around and try and find some loot. So that went quite well. The first time they were all the yeah, I think every one of our guys got killed apart from me. But I nearly did die a couple of times. It was pretty frantic. Good fun, though. Right, so they're all dead at the factory. But Mad Dog has gone away, so looks like they were trading some artifact. Thank you for the reward. Right, so this is a good place as any to leave it, really. If you want to, you know, play Lost Alpha in its latest state, then I think you can do a lot worse than play this for a Stalker experience. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm not sure what I'll do next, but certainly aside from Turok 2 and Quake, I'll probably think of something. So I'll see you in something else next time. Cheers for now.